This is Just Win Bets, baby, on the Sports Bet Winning Network.
Joining us today is one of the sharpest minds in sports betting and combat sports analysis. You know him from CBS Sports HQ and CBS Sports Network, and as a regular voice on SportsLine's flagship betting show, The Early Edge, with our good friends Sia Najad and John Buckets Eimer. Whether he's breaking down the fight night tape or breaking down NFL props, he's one of the top handicappers in the game today. Give it up for Danny Brasco. How you doing, my friend?
Thank you for the great intro, and thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it. I'm excited to talk UFC Fight Night with you guys, and getting into all sorts of stuff, sports betting related. Let's go.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, man. Glad to have you on. We talked a little bit off air before we started the filming here, and we had Sia on. He was hyping you up, man. He was like, "Got to get Danny on. Got to get him on." So Sia was great, man. Sia was awesome.
Sia's the best, man.
Yeah.
He is clearly the best, and he's local to us. We're in Virginia. We're about 30 minutes outside of DC, so kind of have that DMV connection going on there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's great to have you on, my friend. Let me start you off with this question. MMA is notoriously one of the most unpredictable sports to handicap. What core matrix on film or on film study routines do you rely on when you're evaluating a fight that casual fans typically overlook?
Yeah, wow, what a great question to lead off. There's a lot of sort of spots that you look at in MMA, like you think about the crossroads fight or the prospect, like the level check fight, the veteran, fading away, kind of what does he have left fight, the weight class change, all sorts of different kind of things that you look into in terms of a fighter and what they bring into that matchup that can offer unique value, because fighting is like no other sport. Like you said, it's so unpredictable because there's not a team of people to help you. It's you in another cage against another man with any available martial art that you can best them in that could potentially win the fight. Another one is will versus skill. Maybe the more technical fighter on paper doesn't have the ability to stand up to pressure and toughness of another fighter. So as we know, styles make fights, and that's why it's the best sport on planet Earth. It's so much fun to handicap, and a lot of the time you can exploit the market because of that.
Totally agree with you there. And then you said like the old veteran there, just reminded me of this past weekend with Jan getting knocked out in the first round by Sterling. I thought that fight would have gone a little bit longer, but I had Sterling winning that one.
Oh, man. Good call. I took the shot on Jan. I thought the line was too wide. I thought after Bogdan Guskov dropped him and 10-8'd him in his last fight, and he still came back and won the third round to force the draw, I thought maybe the old vet had one more performance left in him, but you were right to take the explosive Sterling. He's ready to go, and Jan's cooked, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So how do you handle cold streaks when you're betting and high variance fight outcomes, and how has your handicapping evolved over time?
Wow, I love these questions. Cold streaks can definitely happen, especially in MMA because of the unpredictability. Big favorites go down all the time. So I think in the past, I would run into some of these streaks a lot more often because I was doing a lot of two-leg parlays that I thought, well, if I take the minus 400 guy and the minus 250, I get it to around even money. That's a good play. And so often, the line was inflated on a certain prospect that was overhyped, or a veteran who, we didn't see had too many miles on the tires, So a lot of the time now I look for individual outcomes. I'm not looking to put legs together. There's a lot of high variance fights where you can take a small, say, quarter unit bet, small risk, and look to, find a big plus money outcome on something that maybe the books have mispriced. So I like to go half units on props, and instead of going these big unit parlays, just find value and find the mismatches and try to just, go through the ebbs and flows of sports betting. We all go through our cold streaks. Just don't get emotional. Don't start, upping your wagers, changing your unit sizes. Just scale back and take a break if you need to, because fighting is freaking crazy. You can enjoy the fights without having money on them. Sometimes it's going to get the blood pumping no matter what. But just be patient in this game. Fighting is wild. So that disciplined.
Yeah, that's one of our rules there, Shano. As you know, we have like our little, I don't want to say Bible, but our little book here, kind of like Wedding Crashers. I don't know if you saw the movie or not, but that's like rule number 15, never bet angry. It just the number of years that my partner and I have covered sports betting. Obviously, it's starting to get a little bit more legal. Obviously, in the States, obviously in New York, all the way around the East Coast, most of the East Coast, and majority of the United States. But yeah, that's one of your rule. You lose one, okay, maybe you need to step back, maybe change your units, maybe go down a little bit, maybe go a half a unit less, or full unit less. Who knows? Whatever your style is. And then you just never bet angry. So you take the NFL for an example. If you're like, okay, look, I totally lost 6 games, the 1 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, I got to bet Sunday Night Football. No, just dude, you're having a bad day. Just let it go. Let's just move on. You know what I mean?
100%. Especially in fighting, there's nothing like losing a fight bet because it's so deflating. Like if your guy gets knocked out, you had a big favorite and he totally disappoints. It's losing in a fight is not like losing in any other sport. It's right. It's truly visceral. And so sometimes you feel that in your betting, and you just got to take a step back and realize you're not in the fight. You're just betting on it. And you can chill out.
and even if you bet some of these guys, your guy that you're betting on could be winning the whole fight and then just get clocked by a counterpunch, and then your night's done, So it's why that high variance, it's crazy. Joe the Fan, we actually need to type that up and publish that book. Put it out there. We can make some money on that thing.
Maybe. You never know.
The other rule we have, another one, especially for fights, you don't have to bet every fight, people. Like that's like a mistake I had when I first get into sports betting, is I was trying to bet like every single fight on the card, and you don't have to. If you're not sure about a fight, don't do it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes you see these juiced lines, like there's no value. Even if you wanted, you think maybe the underdog is too wide, but you don't think they can win, and the favorite should get the knockout, but maybe they can go to decision. Just pass on the fight. There's a lot of spots that you'll like. And like you said, a lot of the time there's 10 plus fights on the card. You look at an MLB slate on a given day, you're not betting 8 games necessarily. So take it easy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So as a regular analyst on CBS Sports Early Edge, how do you balance giving fast-paced, entertaining TV advice with deep, sharp analysis needed to win long-term?
Wow. Well, honestly, the analysis, I think, just comes from the passion. Like, I love this. And I think a while ago, I decided I'm not interested in doing anything for work if it's not going to be talking about sports for a living. So I put my foot down on that. And, that's what I do every day. I get to do this full time. It's a privilege to work for SportsLine and CBS Sports and cover the UFC. Now that they're on Paramount, obviously, that's really ramped up and been a great opportunity for me. And so I channel all this into, my passion for what I do. And I spend early in the week watching tape study and, learning about these fighters, submitting my articles very early on too, and then watching the market come out, watching how lines ebb and flow, sometimes ignoring the line movement. We see a lot of fake sharp action and inflated lines and, overhype, and UFC is a lot, great place to sometimes fade the sharps. So just watch how props come out and lines move, speculate on that. And of course, really just break down the fights, because at the end of the day, the line doesn't care about getting punched in the face. You can't walk in the rain without getting wet. And it's a fight at the end of the day. So it's like no other sport on planet Earth. I love breaking it down and covering it, especially from a betting perspective, along with the NFL. And two great sports. I think UFC also rivaling, some of the major sports that's really coming up. So I love to be a part of this right now and what's going on.
We're with our good friend Danny Brasco, and of course of CBS Sports, and you can follow him on X. You can scan the QR code on the bottom right corner. It goes right to his X page, and you can follow him at Brasco's Bet. That's BRASCO Bets, BETS. It's great to have you on, of course, my friend. Let me ask you this, and this is something that Chano over here, my partner, is the one that handles more of the UFC betting. I handle more of the soccer, so John and I can relate. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm not taking anything away from UFC at all. I'm starting to learn a little bit more of how to analyze it and stuff like that. But do you feel, I'm going a little off script here, do you feel that the product, I understand it's on Paramount Plus. I understand that Dana White and Paramount have obviously invested X amount of dollars into the product of UFC. Do you feel that it used to be not as many fights and you always have to be, oh man, I'm ready to see it. But now is it too much of a good thing?
That's a classic debate. A lot of people wonder, would you rather have high quality fights but less fight cards, or a fight card every single weekend with 10 plus, stacked no matter what? But sometimes you're seeing some mid-level heavyweight and you're like, dude, really? This is UFC caliber guy. So fans will lament that, but then be, twiddling their thumbs with the Pablo Escobar meme, nothing to do on a Saturday when there's no UFC around. So for me, I'm a diehard. I'm I got nothing to do on a Saturday. This is what I do. So I'm always going to vote for more fights. And if that means sometimes we see guys that aren't necessarily cut for the UFC cloth, then we find out and they get level checked, or, that happens later on. But I do think that the product is just pushing more and more fights. And, I'm a fan of the sport developing and growing its roster for that reason. So that's my vote. That if I have a say, I want more fights always.
All right, I understand. I just think about when I first started getting into the sport. I mean, I've been watching UFC for a long, long time, but I just remember like back in the day, you had like this is like Chuck Liddell era, right? So it's a while ago, but they had like 12, 13 fight cards a year. And like, I just always felt like there was so much more anticipation and build up to those especially those main events, man. It's just like you were waiting for it. And then that finally happened and you saw like this magic on screen. I just think it helped build and propel stars a lot more, where like now you have like a big moment and then it's like, all right, there's clean sweep. We're on to the next week and we're on to the next thing. I just feel like, especially maybe after big main events, having a week off might be beneficial to let that moment simmer and set in for a second and then move on to the next card, like having a week off.
That's a really interesting perspective, because it also goes to show like the UFC fan base changes their mind. They're so fickle, right? Like stars get chewed up and spit out really fast. In fact, the sport is kind of starving for a new star. Like Ilia Topuria, the boogeyman, was just dispelled. A lot of the Alex Pereira at heavyweight now, coming, lost a lot of momentum. A lot of the favorites in the UFC or the guys that were supposed to be the one, so to speak, are no longer. So, Conor McGregor obviously ain't coming back. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So, to your point, the UFC, the fans move on very quickly. And because of that, maybe there's not some of these iconic guys that they used to build.
And I was thinking, like, even this year, right? So you had the event at the White House, which, politics aside, say whatever you want about it. It looked great. It looked awesome. It looked awesome. It was great. And all that stuff was done perfect. And then the very next week, we're at the Apex. I think, like, if you would have taken that week off, let that moment build a little bit, build some momentum, have people talk about it, get used to talking about the next event. I think that would have helped the company a lot more and the fighters. It was just weird going from like this grand stage of having the White House behind you, and then you're back into like 1,000-seat arena.
Back at the Apex. Yeah, man. No, that's a totally fair point. Apex fights are crazy.
Yeah. But in UFC's defense there, Shino, there were some pretty good fights. The week after,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's why I always tell people don't judge a card until after it happens. Because like some of these cards, like people are like, oh, this is trash card. And then like you see some of the best fights ever on some of those cards.
Justin Gaethje walking out of the Oval Office, looking at the Constitution, and then beating Ilia Topuria and making him quit on the stool will be one of the greatest fights in UFC history forever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. While we have you on, I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on the MVP PFL merger? How do you think that's going to help them come up? Do you think they're going to be a legit number 2 now? Do you think they could even make a push to put some fire on Dana's seat in UFC?
I mean, the competition is always good for any marketplace, so I'm for it. The UFC is such a powerful entity that other organizations were going to have to combine forces. We saw PFL Bellator, now PFL MVP. They have to do that to compete. So kudos to them on that merger. I like watching a lot of the PFL fights. I was a little disappointed with like some of the MVP production stuff. Look at some of the Jake Paul fights. We're talking about wheeling out a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. I'm not going to tip my cap to that one. The Ronda Rousey Gina Carano fight. I mean, that was billed as the greatest return in combat sports. And I said, I was filming on Instagram right before that. And I said, if this is over in 20 seconds with a Rousey armbar, it's going to be pretty laughable for all the buildup that happened. And then they hugged more times than strikes were thrown. I counted more hugs than significant strikes. So I thought that was kind of a big letdown. So we'll see. I'm sure they can put together good events coming forward. But UFC is a behemoth that's tough to compete with. But it's good for the marketplace, I would say.
I agree. Competition makes everybody better. I always think back at I'm a wrestling fan too, so I always think back to the Attitude Era, WWF and WWE now. But like them and WCW happening at the same time was like perfect because they all try to outdo each other over and over again.
Yes,
so competition's always better, right? Always. We got another question for you. We asked this of everybody who's on here for the first time they're on that covers fights and gives fights bets and stuff like that. Who's on your personal Mount Rushmore fighters? It doesn't have to be who you think's the GOAT, like who the greatest are. It's like your personal favorites to watch. Who's your top 4?
Wow. This is one of my favorites to watch. All right. Well, I think I started to fall in love with UFC with Anderson the Spider Silva. He's just so silky smooth the knockout over Forrest Griffin. Like I remember watching that on like Spike TV highlights. Like, so Silva's got to be up there. I mean, the unsung GOAT, I feel like Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. What an amazing flyweight. Maybe the most skilled pound for pound guy ever. And so smart. I still love watching him break down fights and talk, after his career. So love me some Demetrius Johnson. Oh, man. I mean, right now, who are some of my favorites? I'm a big Tom Aspinall fan. I'm so bummed that he's been out for so long because of the eye surgery, but I really loved his rise. And I know a lot of people are saying, Cyril Gane had him dead to rights. He busted him up with the jab. But guys, it was one round. There's no discussion of Tom Aspinall's heart and cardio and what could have happened later in that fight. So I think people are too quick to assume that the eye poke happened and that Aspinall, would have lost to Gane and lost so much momentum. But I'm a big Aspinall guy. So, if he were to be able to get back in the mix and reclaim his throne, then I would put him up there already just because I like him as a fighter a lot. Yeah, man, put me on the spot. I got to think a little bit more, but I do love some Silva, some Johnson for old school guys. Of course, George St. Pierre, one of the greatest to ever do it. Love him. Yeah, man, I'll think some more on it, but maybe I'll get back to you later in the show.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're with our good friend, of course, Danny Brasco of CBS SportsLine and of course, SportsLine. You can follow him on X. Just scan this QR code if you're watching us here on X or on YouTube, or follow him on X at Brasco Bets. That's BRASCOBETS. Let me ask you this final question before we get to the card for this weekend. Of course, we'll get your thoughts on it. Looking at the current landscape of the UFC, which division or emerging prospect do you think presents the best betting opportunities right now, and why? Interesting.
So what was the question? Which division and prospect?
Yeah. What which division or emerging prospect do you think that you think presents the best betting opportunity right now?
I mean, honestly, just because of recency, it might be the one on this card right now. You kind of set the stage for him. Quillen Salkilld is a lightweight that's surging up the rankings, and he's a favorite against the veteran grappler, the guy with way more experience, way more high-level opposition faced in Matthias Gamrot. And Salkilld is a guy that might be the real deal. So, if he gets another stoppage win, even if he's facing these top 10 guys coming up, he might be even a larger favorite just because of the hype. The power is thunderous. We saw him put out a guy in Nasrat Haqparast with a head kick. Haqparast has been in wars throughout his UFC career. He just put him to sleep quick with the kick. He's got the crazy straight right hand, and he's a very high-level grappler. So the kid looks to have real skill, just 12-1, but he hasn't lost since his pro debut. He's on a 12-fight win streak. He's got all the momentum. He seems smart. He seems physically talented, in terms of like the intangibles, the toughness, the physical strength, the ability to grind through positions. So I feel like we're going to talk about him some more on this card, but Quillen Salkilld is a very special prospect, and he may offer some value in the lightweight division.
Yes. Very well. Since you brought it up, we'll start with that. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape right there. You can see it on your screen there, folks. Of course, the Poland fighter taking on the Australian fighter. So I will go to, of course, we'll start off with our guest here. Notice the difference in the age there, 35, 26. You alluded to that earlier in the conversation there. The height, there's a little bit of a difference in the height. And of course, with the reaches, we've got, of course, their reach and of course, their leg reach. Do you see, and the odds, they're starting to come out right now as we're recording this there, my friend. Where do you see this going to for the main event, which will take place at the Meta Apex this Saturday?
I think that the younger man, Salkilld, has an advantage here in this stylistic matchup because I give Gamrot, of course, a lot of experience or edges for his experience, his pace, his chain wrestling. He could just make it tough on fighters. He's going to push the pace on you. He's going to see if you can keep up with his relentless attack. And he's tough, despite being in some nasty fights. He gets dropped, but he keeps coming. He's a tough fighter to deal with over the course of 15 minutes. Now Salkild's got to do it over the course of 25 in a main event and prove that he's an elite UFC lightweight. I think he can do it. I think, like I said before, I think he's the real deal. He has the grappling skill, I believe, to potentially neutralize some of that pressure grappling that Gamrot will bring. And if Gamrot's forced to strike with him, look, Gamrot's improved his hands. He can box, he can strike, But I favor the power. I think Salkild's the more dangerous striker. I think he has the finishing upside in this fight. Gamrot's a guy that will make you wilt over the course of the fight, but just kind of drown you with the mat returns, right? Repeated takedowns, just not let you get your game off. But Salkilld with the reach advantage, with the youth, maybe the power advantage as well. He's the bigger fighter. He's the rangier fighter. I think he has ways to hurt Gamrot, especially if he makes him pay for missed takedowns, makes him pay in the clinch with damage there, with knees, elbows, short shots. I could see Salkilld winning at range. I could see him winning inside. And if he's able to deal with the pressure attack and have moments, he's going to drop Gamrot. I feel like I'm kind of a Mateus Gamrot hater, to be honest. I've been against him in a lot of fights. I was looking back at his record and some of the betting odds. I was on Dan Hooker at plus 340. He won a split decision against him. I was on Beneil Dariush at plus 240, at plus 240, and he handled Gamrot. Gamrot has some impressive wins, but I've also seen him pieced up and outstruck by guys that can fend off the grappling and make it count on the feet. And I feel like that's what's going to happen for Salkilld here. So I like him to show out. I like the prospect here. Give me Salkilld as a favorite. And I think he could win this fight inside the distance. Only guy to ever finish Gamrot is Charles Oliveira in a recent fight. And the finish price on Salkilld is only plus 140. I feel like that's a little bit telling. I feel like books feel like, again, he has the finishing upside like I do. And I see it for him. I like Salkilld.
I was just about to ask you that because I was like, Salkilld, he's got 5 knockouts in his career. He's also got 4 submissions in his pro career. So, but I was like, Gamrot's never been knocked out in his career. He's only been finished once, like you said, against Oliveira. So I was about to ask you, do you think Salkilld can win it? Do you think he can get a knockout chance or no?
The straight right hand is powerful. The head kick I mentioned over Haqparast, that's serious. Like, even if it hits the guard, it can wobble you. So I do think he has the chance to knock him out. Gamrot may be wearing a lot of miles on the tires at this point. I mentioned the Hooker fight. That was a nasty scrap. Both guys took a lot of damage in that one. He's been in some wars. The Oliveira loss, he took damage in. Oliveira walked right through him. Even in some of his wins, he's been Jalen Turner, split decision. A lot of the time, if Gamrot's going to win, he's going to beat you over the course of a hard fought scrap in 15 minutes. And that's going to require him to take some damage. And that might be a dangerous prospect against Salkilld.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I see this definitely as like the gatekeeper here. That's what Gamrot's playing here. They're trying to see if Salkilld is on this elite level, like kind of you spoke about. Because if you compare resumes, there's no real comparison here. Gamrot has fought the tougher competition throughout the career, but it's expected. He's 35 years old now, 36 years old, whatever he is, right? So, he's fought some of the best in this division where Salkilld is on that rise. And this is like I think his toughest test by far, Salkild's toughest test by far. His last one, he beat Dariush, like you said. He knocked him out in the first round. And like you said, to the point, Dariush beat Gamrot, 3 or 4 years ago now, right? So, but I think this is like the UFC's test to him, seeing if he's at this elite level and if he can start making a run for a belt.
100%. This is the elite check right here, because Gamrot, to be fair, I said I'm a Gamrot hater. I found myself on Esteban Ribovic in his last fight as an underdog, and Gamrot proved there's levels. He handled Ribovic. That was a bad bet on my part, and Gamrot is just a level above. So hold your horses. He's not just a fade candidate. But even though I've been against him on a lot of bets, he's still a very good fighter. But I feel like he's met his match here with Salkilld. Yes, he level checked Ribovic, but this is the type of prospect that I think is on his level and perhaps above. We'll see.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Salkild's a killer, man. He is. He's so good.
Yeah. Our producer,
he's got like a swagger about him too. Kid has got aura.
Yeah. And he's like high paced. He averages like over 5 significant strikes a minute. He's like coming right at you. He's incredible. He's just incredible.
It seems like our producer updated the page here because again, the odds were starting to come out. So now we can see it there, gentlemen.
Look at that.
And look at that. He's like a sloth. Our producer's like a little bit of a sloth, like the tortoise in the hare, but we love him.
I saw the finish at plus 140. I saw because he's got KO at plus 240, submission at plus 450. Yeah. I saw the finish just KO or sub at plus 140 for Salkilld. That was interesting.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. He makes mistakes, but
that's combining KO and sub though. So
yes.
That's not on there. Oh, finish up top. Oh, that says minus 235. Yeah. Minus 235 is too low. That one's not updated.
Yeah.
But yeah, plus 140. I'm surprised it's that low with Gamrot only having been finished once in his career. So that like kind of to your point, that's kind of telling you Vegas thinks this might might get finished here by Salkilld.
Yeah, the Ludovic Klein fight, he took some damage in. Like there's no clean, other than the Ribovic fight. There's no clean fights for Gamrot. He's going to get in there. He's going to tangle up. He's going to get nasty, mix his punches together with his takedowns, and he's probably going to get hit too. And Salkilld is 9 years younger. That's a big advantage in UFC betting. A lot of the time you see a fighter with that kind of age gap. I believe it's like 60+% of the time they win the fight. So just a good spot.
Yeah. Are there any other fights on the card you're looking forward to?
Yeah, there's some good ones. Let me take a look at the betting lines here. But there's a few fights. Honestly, look, I'm not someone that normally just wants to play straight up chalk, but I thought Manuel Souza at -250 was a gift. I thought Souza should be -400. He's facing a UFC debutant in Richie Miranda. Miranda's a champion over in the LFA Fight League, lightweight champion. He's a good pressure fighter. You know, he's dangerous on the ground. I like what I've seen on tape. He's a scrapper. But Souza is a colossal puncher. The guy has insane power. He's a physical specimen. And unlike a lot of these muscular freaks, like physique guys, he has 3-round cardio. He carries his power for all the rounds. He's insanely dangerous. On his record, back in 2019, he actually knocked out Mauricio Rufy, UFC lightweight contender. So this guy it goes to show like the level he's just always been on and the potential and kind of talent he has. And Miranda's style, like he has to kind of walk through the fire to be able to get to you. And that is not a style that works against a puncher like Souza. So yeah, I'm going to bet on him knockout. And I think -250 is kind of a gift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
-250. I'm making notes right now.
Yeah. There you go.
There's another one that's interesting. Jesse Rosas, Raul Rosas Jr.'s brother, actually older brother by 2 years, is making his UFC debut. He's a +130 underdog against Miles Johns, sort of a UFC veteran. He's actually one of the only dogs that I like on the card. I think Rosas has something here. Obviously, the family ties is an interesting, story about him. But he actually is a better striker coming into the UFC than his brother was. Raul Rosas had to kind of learn his striking game. He was always the takedown artist, the grappler. But Rosas can box a little bit. He can grapple too, like his bro. And Johns is a good veteran, but he's 6-5 in the UFC. He's like a good test for a prospect coming in. I think Rosas might be on the level. So you're going to give me +130 if the potential's there. Maybe he ends up getting an easier fight in his next one and he's a bigger favorite. And we look for the coming out party of Rosas. So I'll take a shot now at +130 on Raul Rosas' brother, Jesse.
Yeah, the Mexican, of course, taking on the American in Miles John there. The featherweight is what our guest is referring to. Shayna, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I like that one a lot too. I like that a lot.
Do you have a play, my friend, in another fight in the two Americans in Goff and Miller? Ty Miller taking on, of course, Billy Ray Goff in the welterweight bout that's going to take place this Saturday.
Yeah, I really like me some Ty Miller. I bet on him by knockout. I think it was -110 in his last fight against Adam Fugit. And I was watching that fight in the CBS HQ studios over in Connecticut because I believe that was on the Pimblett Gaethje card, the first card that opened up the Paramount era, which was an awesome card, an amazing main event fight. And Miller was one of the first fights on the prelims. And I remember he landed, like inside the first 30 seconds of the fight, he landed a straight right hand. And I was like, that's free. Like he's just going to keep, he found it again. He was hammering Fugit with a straight right. He just has good boxing vision. I like his jab. I like his long punches. He's got durability too. He's willing to trade in the pocket and he can take one to give one if he needs to. And he's got a matchup against Billy Ray Goff, who's down for a brawl. He's a guy that will do the same. He wants to mix in his wrestling with his punches, but he's also just like a dirty fighter. He wants to dirty box you and make it ugly and see if you can hold up in a nasty scrap. He met his match. I think he's got the right dance partner in Miller. I'm going to go Ty Miller by knockout. I think if you're going to fight Miller like that, the punch combinations are just going to add up, and eventually Goff is going to get TKO'd.
Yeah.
I like it. Those odds have not come out yet. Miller is a -380 money line right now.
Yeah,
but the knockout, the prop bets aren't out yet for it. At least on DraftKings. I just have DraftKings up right now.
Yeah,
right.
I was curious, so I was looking up while you're talking. Billy Ray. Every time I hear Billy Ray Goff's name, I just think of Cyrus. I just don't know why. It's just like
think of
it. Ricky Hart just starts playing in the back of my mind, and then like he's starting to grow a mullet, and it's.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're with our good friend Danny Brasco of CBS Sports and, of course, the SportsLine. And you can catch him on that show with our good friend, of course, Cy and John, among other handicappers as well. But before we let you go, we just definitely want to honor your time there, my friend. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience, of what's coming up, where they can find you besides your X page, or is there anywhere else they could find you, or when they can tune in to the show?
Yeah, I'm. You can find me on Danny Brasco Bets on Instagram as well. I'm always posting UFC content, reactions, picks, analysis. You can find me at these handles on social media, of course. I'm on the Early Edge Thursdays and Fridays every week on CBS SportsLine as well. You can find me on HQ throughout the week, breaking down the fights, previewing, giving bets, and just stay locked in on CBS and SportsLine to find me. And I also have, if you're following me on social media, I'm actually dropping an app for bettors and fantasy players, kind of unique, novel idea that doesn't exist in the marketplace, something new that I think people will be interested in. We're about to drop the beta app. It's coming out very soon, and I'm excited to announce it. So if you are following me on social media now, and I met you through the show, thanks so much. I appreciate you guys having me on, and heads up for my news on that.
Ooh.
Looking forward to it.
I think Shayna's looking at the App Store. Well, wait a minute. He didn't see. The joke is he's an Android guy and I'm an Apple guy. Okay,
no.
So it's probably, you know what it is, and I'm joking, of course. It's probably ready on the Android and not on the Apple because they charge tax or whatever. You know how it is.
Apple's the worst.
Oh, boy. Apple is the worst.
Apple is the worst. I'm like the only person I know who's never owned an Apple product in their life.
I respect you. Yeah, I wish I was strong enough to do that.
Yeah.
Back when the iPod came popular, I had a Zune. So
that's awesome.
Microsoft Zune. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Dan, we truly appreciate your time and taking time out of your busy schedule to join us, my friend. Good luck on the fights. Tell the guys we said hi, and stay safe, my friend, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It was a good time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
When we return, of course, we will have our best bets of the night here on Just Win Bets, baby.